And like I said, we will be recording this webinar to send it out to everyone after and to make it available to those who weren't able to join us during this time. So welcome to the September All-America City Awards webinar. My name is Sarah Lipscomb, and I'm the director of the All-America City Award program here at the National Civic League. And the National Civic League is a 123-year-old nonprofit, and we aim to create inclusive, thriving communities by inspiring, supporting, and recognizing equitable approaches to community decision-making. Now, the All-America City Award is our flagship program, and it's been around since 1949. We recognize 10 communities each year for exceptional civic engagement in local government. And All-America City not only aims to celebrate the great work, but also to share innovative practices, initiatives, and projects around the country. So we've created this webinar series as one way to do that. And you'll get to hear from 3 previous winning communities today, some on the projects that they submitted in their winning applications, but this webinar is also really going to focus on some strategies and tips to help potential applicants for the 2018 All-America City process. And we're also going to have our presenters speak a little bit about the benefits of winning the award and participating in the program today. So I wanted to begin just for a few minutes going over some logistics and some key dates about the 2018 All-America City Awards. And each year we have a theme, and if I can get the slide to advance, for 2018, it is promoting equity through inclusive civic engagement. And 2018 is also the 50th anniversary of the report on the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders, or better known as the Kerner Commission. And that report concluded with words that could easily fit within our own times. It is time to make good on the promises of American democracy to all citizens, urban and rural, white, black, Spanish, surname, American Indians, and every minority group. And that really resonated with us here at the National Civic League, and we wanted to make sure that 2018 really highlighted the work that people are doing to promote equity in their communities. And we are, oh, there we go, okay. Sorry about that, having a few technical difficulties on my end, but just wanted to briefly go over the key dates and deadlines for this year's All-America City Award. October 18th is the first one, and that is the letter of intent. And that is not required to apply for the award, but it will give you $100 off your application fee. And it's a very simple letter, and there's a template embedded in the 2018 application. And then applications are actually due on February 28th of 2018. There's directions in the application on how to submit that electronically and one printed. And the application fee is $250, but again, if you submit an LOI, it will only be $150. Then in early April, we will announce the finalists that will be invited to Denver to present to our national jury. And June 22nd through 24th is going to be the All-America City Awards competition and learning event in Denver, Colorado, where the 10 winners will be chosen based on their applications and presentations. Now, the criteria for the award is listed in the application, but just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. Civic engagement is obviously the largest piece, and we're really looking for that reciprocal relationship between local governments and institutions and residents. As I said before, equity is a really important focus for us, so we want to see in the application how people are intentionally involving very diverse segments of their population. Obviously, cross-sector collaboration is always important to the success of projects. Then we also look for innovation and impact in, throughout the application. If you've had a chance to look at the 2018 application this year and you've looked at previous applications, you will notice that we changed the sections slightly. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. So we do start out with a section specifically about equity. And I don't want this piece to scare anyone off because we know that it's a relatively new concept to really dig into the demographics of your community and your different contracts and vendors, your city staff and leadership, your resident boards and commissions, your leadership academies, your infrastructure updates, all of those things that cities are responsible for doing for their residents, and really looking at that through the lens of the full demographics of your community. We know that that's a very new thing, so if it's not something you're currently doing, don't let that deter you from not applying. It's just a great strategy that we wanted to kind of lift and raise up in the application and honor those who are doing it and hopefully push people who aren't to start doing it. Then the second part of the application is similar to previous years. It's just been shortened, and it's telling your community story. So this is really the place where you can kind of give background on your city and community, what makes you all unique and special, and just a brief history to give the reader of the application some context. And then the bulk of the application is going to be part 3 and 4. And part 3 is new this year. We really wanted to draw out civic engagement into its own section, and you'll see 5 questions in the application that we specifically asked to be answered. And this is really just to get a good sense of how people are including their residents, how people are creating a shared vision in their community, how decisions are made in your community. So that section is rather brief, but very, very important for us to get a great sense of the civic engagement that you all are doing. And then finally is part 4, which is describing 3 community-driven projects. And this is where you'll really be able to shine and show all of the things that your community is working on and has done for your residents. And this is where you want to weave through all of the criteria into your 3 projects and really showcase the great work that you all have done. So that's very briefly all of the pieces of the application. And then the benefits our 3 presenters are going to get into today, but just wanted to highlight them before we get started in the presenters as increased civic pride and community collaboration, economic benefits by getting new grants, new businesses, tourism, and keeping new and old residents as well. And then becoming a part of our network and the All-America City Network and being able to lean on each other, learn from each other so you're not always reinventing the wheel. And then it's also a great opportunity to share your story on a national stage and to get recognition nationally for the stuff that you are doing locally. Okay, so with that, I tried to get through as quickly as possible so we can get to our great presenters. And there will be time to ask plenty of questions at the end of the webinar, and I am always available by phone or email to help all potential applicants. So with that, I want to turn it over to Doug Croft, who was the lead on the 2013 Thomasville, North Carolina All-America City Award. Doug?
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this presentation, and I will kind of talk a little fast because I've got a lot of information in here, but as Sarah said, certainly can follow up later on. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk and sort of took Sarah's words of tips. So that's kind of the way I've approached this. These are going to be some tips for different phases throughout the process, but I think you would find, overall that this to be, as it says here, an exciting and challenging and powerful journey for your community that comes through in the benefits that Sarah just mentioned. So let's move on. And you're at this phase now where you're thinking about applying, or you're it's just at least in the minds of some folks. And so my tips are to evaluate the projects and outcomes. And sometimes in my own community, I use the words, wow, this is an All-America City worthy project, or this one isn't quite. But you can evaluate those now, and it'll help you make a determination whether to apply in February or not. You'll hear me and probably some of the others reference the word mentor, and by that we mean somebody like us, or Sarah has a list of others who are All-America City winners and have the experience. And I think several steps in this process, you're certainly welcome to reach out to a mentor, and this is one of them. So you could say, hey, take 5 minutes or 10 minutes and share what your projects that you're thinking about are, and get some feedback from somebody who's been through the process where they say, yeah, that's very worthy, or that's, and I want to focus on the word outcome too. So it's not just you've done projects, but are there measurable, reliable, factual outcomes from that? So, and the third tip is really just know why you're applying. And what I really mean is, don't just dip your toe in the water and see what happens, and not knowing what comes after. Come April and you're announced a finalist, there's a lot of things that are going to happen in about 2 or 2.5 months, and if you approached it from just dipping your toe in the water and maybe we'll find out, maybe we won't, you won't be prepared for the next phase. So just be prepared to go all in. So as you're doing the application, I know it seems months away, but you certainly could go ahead and start and doing some drafting, particularly if you're not the data person. Somebody, City Hall or somebody else has that demographic data that needs to go in there. And as I said, these are just tips. These aren't rules or pieces from the National Civic League. These are just Doug's suggestions, and one of them is this, and that's to not divide up the sections for multiple people to write, but to have one person that's sort of maybe the anchor writer. You need a lot of other people looking and clarifying and making sure, particularly those who were involved in those projects, to make sure that what you wrote in the application or what the writer puts in the application is accurate and reflects what that project is. But my suggestion is one sort of anchor writer that makes the whole process consistent, and rather than say, hey, you write this section and somebody else will write that section. That's not bad. It's just I think you'll have more consistency with one person doing it. You certainly need plenty of other people looking and reviewing and giving their thoughts. There's a section, Sarah just went through the sections. There's a section in the application, or has been, about challenges that your community has faced. And I know I'm just picking on mayors or something who may say, hey, our city's great. We don't have any challenges, and that's what Chamber of Commerce folks like me do too. So, but the truth is we do, and so acknowledge that. And if you write it well, you'll see how your projects, or reflect that your projects help address those challenges. So go ahead and acknowledge them, and that's part of the whole process. So if you're a writer or have ever written significantly, and I'm a writer a little bit by hobby as well. So tip number 4 is I can't overstress that. You have to proofread and proofread and proofread, and I don't mean just you, because you've read it on your computer screen 100 times. You have to have other people proofread it. Partly that's for typos and commas, but it's about flow and content. And if you've not done this, you need to learn to read it out loud. The day we sent ours in, we had 2 people in our office read it out loud and found 2 mistakes, one each time. Had we not done it, they weren't critical mistakes per se, but we wanted it to be accurate and perfect. And so read it out loud, and it is part of your proofreading. Proofread as many times as you want to. Be honest. I know that seems obvious, but it kind of reflects back to that part about challenges. But the other is you're telling the story about the projects. Just be straightforward about them and their outcomes. If you use numbers, use the real numbers. Don't overly inflate or play with that a little bit. I don't want to harp on this other than to say that if it's if you're not, somebody's going to figure that out. Somewhere along the way, that's going to be evident, and so just don't challenge that. Just be straight up, because that's what's going to show that you're an All-America City winner, to tell you the truth. And then again, you may want to call on a mentor to review the application, meaning the experienced mentor to review the application, just to see if they pick up anything. They may not, but it never hurts. My last tip is not only just to send it in, but send it in a day early or 2 days early. I say that from our experience. I just told you we were sitting there reading it out loud. After 5 o'clock, I was on the East Coast. We had time, but I was reading it out loud and found mistakes and did it again and sent it in, and actually got a bounce back on the email and had to send it directly to Sarah, to make sure that we got it in. So we were freaking out at the last minute on that, but a day early or a week early isn't gonna hurt you if you're prepared. So send it in early. After you apply, there's this window of time where you're waiting to hear if you're a finalist, and it's a couple of months, and you can chill and be doing your other stuff. But my suggestion is you don't have to go all in and write out a detailed plan, but this tip is just be thinking about these things. These are the things you're going to see coming up in just a few minutes. Once you become a finalist, these are things you're going to really deal with. So there's no reason not to at least be thinking about it. And I won't go through those. I may in just a minute touch on one or two of them, but just be thinking ahead. Let's go ahead. So you get the news sometime in April that you're a finalist, and it's exciting. I mean, you've won the first step, and so being a finalist is way cool. Celebrate it. It's definitely worthy of celebrating. The National Civic League will do a news release, and it could be your news media even gets it before you've told them, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, but do your own news release. Be prepared to do one. That may be something you work up, the draft of in that interim period. My philosophy was that what you put in that first news release and tell people we've just been named a finalist sets the tone within the community for the other things you want to do. You may be raising money in another week or two. You may be asking people to donate a product, or who knows what you may be doing, but you can start building the spirit that's going to carry you through the next 2.5 months with that first news release. And when you call somebody and say, yeah, I read about that or I heard about that, really the next 2.5 months are sort of planning is sort of a big project management style. I don't know that you have to go with all the graphs and charts and things, but my suggestion is some timelines. So you've got several subjects that you need to deal with, which were on that previous slide as well. But just the plan, you got presentation and logistics, how to transport however many people, and who's going to go and who's not to go may actually take a fair amount of your time in some of those conversations. So plan that out. Actually this isn't written down, but my thought is you're going to have 2.5 or 2 months. So not only are you not waiting, but be proactive. And it's like, I went to work every day. While I had other things to do on my job, I kind of went into work every day and said, what do I need to do today to move this ball forward? And I've put some time, if not a fair amount of time, on it every single day. So you can see some of those topics right there again. There's one person or a 2 or 3 person team that's leading the effort, I know, but you need to assign tasks and get other people involved, particularly if they have different talents. So you may have creative people who are good at writing the presentation, or I had a friend who traveled on their job literally every day. They were on an airplane. I said, hey, you need to figure out how to get 30 people from here to Denver. And so I was able to make those assignments and trust those folks. So that's part of it too. You've in your application in this process, you're reflecting how your community comes together to do things collaboratively, and this process needs to be collaborative as well. I think that's it. So tip number 5 is to do what you're doing today. Be there, participate in webinars and call-ins. Some of it may sound the same that you heard last time or something, but you never know when you get a tip. So be at the table. Certainly don't hesitate to call if you have a mentor or somebody that you've reached out to. I use somebody who was an hour away, but today's world we have Skypes and videos, and you can use somebody half a country away if you want to. And this number 5 and 6 really go together. And what I think helped us, and so I'm using it as a tip to you, is that we had done all that. We were a week away from traveling and going to the conference, and we were we weren't in dress rehearsal, but we were in rehearsal, I'd say, final rehearsal. And we invited our friend, and he brought somebody else over to watch our sort of final rehearsals. And he didn't change a lot, but he said one thing that that not only affected our presentation, but it really affected the whole rest of the process. And I'm so thankful that I had him there that made this one observation that ultimately strengthened our team just with one little comment that he made. Tip number 7 there is something you need to do throughout, is smile and have fun. It's, if you're anal about things like this, like I am, you're going to be focused and concentrating and pushing that ball forward, as I said, and you're going to have your moments of stress or this person on your team's not coming through or something, but do your best, smile, enjoy the process, because it's again, it's that collaborative effort that wins. It occurred to me afterwards, so I really witnessed it, there's folks that have not been on a team. They've never been on it seems weird to say, but there will be some young person, if you have a kids project, and they've not been part of an organized team, or somebody else whose job is just kind of they're by themselves in their office and they're not on collaborative teams. So they're going to have, this may be their first collective team experience. So you bring people, come into this process with a lot of different views as they come in. So, I guess I'm using sports cliches, but think of it as a team, and you're the coach, or somebody's the coach and needs to take this from where you are to the Super Bowl. In fact, I've told that many times. I've said All-America City to me was like bringing a team together. You didn't know everybody. I mean, some people knew each other, but not everybody knew everybody. And you go from there to winning the Super Bowl. You didn't play any games in between. You just went into training camp, and then you got to go to the Super Bowl. And that's kind of one way to look at it. So do your best. There's going to be, roughly maybe 30 or so cities there. 10 are going to win, as Sarah said. So there's people walking away disappointed. You put your heart and soul and hours and energy into it, and you may not be one of the winners. But you deserve to be there. Everybody there probably deserves to win. So my quick tip is go home, think about it, and then apply again the next year. At the conference, there's just 2 or 3 quick things that I learned this from a mentor like this. Somebody told me, you might want to rent an extra room or have a suite, or particularly if you have a project and you're taking a lot of kids. And the person that told me this said they I forget how many kids they had in their delegation, but it's like they didn't want to take them out to restaurants every time, and so they would order in Subway sandwiches or something like that, and everybody got to play and hang out. So where it's not in anybody's personal space of their room and their bed, it's just an extra room. So it's just an idea if that helps you. Sarah will certainly offer to you, that she will have some extra rehearsal rooms if you want to use those. I don't. My suggestion would be to do it at least once, maybe. And the reason being, you may have your presentation so polished, it's perfect, but all of a sudden you're in a different environment. So the chairs look different, the walls look different, and it may not feel quite the same. So take advantage of that. You will definitely have an opportunity to practice on stage one time. That's a very important opportunity. I went in, that's generally scheduled about 20 minutes apart, and I went in thinking, oh, good, that's a 10-minute presentation. I get to run through it twice. That's not going to be the case. You'll have time to practice coming in and going out, and I want to say that that's important as well. You may have practiced that a little bit, but the ballroom may be bigger or smaller, or you just don't know how long it's going to take to walk in and carry something, and so you'll rehearse that. There will be a group of mentors probably there as well, some experienced All-America City folks. So they may watch your rehearsal and give you some tips. So it's worth taking a moment to listen to them, and you just never know what you may find out. I think as much as anything, you're there to win, I know, and you're focused on that. But you'll hear this over and over again, and that's to be there and watch other cities' presentations. Part of that is you want the jury to see you and your group there. But I'll tell you what, you will be inspired. You will find out that not only does your city have great projects and things going on, but there's 29 others, and you're going to, times 3, and you're going to walk away going, wow, that's so cool. I'm going to take that back and do that in my community. And they're going to take something from yours. And the next tip fits right in with that. So cheer for everybody. Go connect with the other cities. Don't just hang in your room and eat Subways. Be out there talking to folks. But you're going to make friends across the country that you're going to connect with occasionally later on because you want to incorporate one of their projects. So you will never forget this experience. So be sure you enjoy it while you're there. And then these are probably my two favorite slides. And I was in Thomasville, North Carolina. So you're named a winner. You go home and there is euphoria, and it lasts a long time. And the truth is, you want it to last a long time. You want it to last years if you can pull that off. And so take the approach and decide. Well, first of all, Sarah will share with you a marketing manual or a manual of past ideas and things different communities have done, and that's a great tool. So you will have some guidance that you can use to take advantage of it. You're doing this, because you want that label, no doubt, and you want to celebrate that. But you want to leverage this. You want to use it for the benefits that she mentioned at the very beginning. So we've got two slides here that reflect how my community used the logo. So you can see we took advantage of that logo and plastered it on a lot of things, and there's a couple of unique ways that we did that, and that was sort of our view was we want to do the standard things, but we want to do different things as well. I want to mention two or three quick things related to benefits. And Sarah reflected this. One of our approaches, we were in a community that was experiencing the challenge of the recession and traditional industries that left not just our community but our country. So we were in a little bit of a down time, and we needed to get back on the map. We needed businesses looking at our community again and thinking about coming. And I can tell you a couple of months after this, we had generated a lot of publicity in our region and beyond, really. And our mayor, just one day in a casual conversation, he said, I've gotten more calls in the last 2 months from prospective businesses than in his previous several years as tenure as mayor. So it can lead to those kind of opportunities if you use it right. And one of our goals was to be on a national stage, and that's a word Sarah had on here. This is a national stage. So take advantage of those opportunities and use your logo and have a great time celebrating. Carry that euphoria as long as you can. Is there one more, Sarah?
I think that was it. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, my contact information. Now, just to clarify, I was in Thomasville, North Carolina, and I'm proud to carry that All-America City banner. My email address is there. I'm in Weslaco, Texas today, which happens to also be an All-America City. So that's why my email address is Weslaco, but you're welcome to contact me, or I think the other two speakers and plenty of other mentors that Sarah will share with you.
Great. Thank you so much, Doug, for sharing your experience. We really appreciate it. And I just wanted to echo a few things that Doug shared. We definitely believe here that there are no perfect communities. That does not exist. Really what the All-America City Award is about is people coming together to address their challenges. So definitely heed Doug's advice and just be very upfront and honest about the complex issues that your community is facing, because it's really about how you recognize those and how you move forward together. I also want to point out his tip of sending in your application maybe even a day early. On the receiving end of many applications, I personally really appreciate that. But as Doug said, it is kind of a stressful time, making sure you get it in the deadline. So giving yourself a false deadline of a day early is not a bad idea. And then finally, I just love all of the ways that Thomasville used the logo, and I'll share this PowerPoint afterwards so that you all can see. But I think that carved pumpkin is the best thing I've seen of the field before. So very impressive. But with that, I want to give it to our next speaker, and that is Christina Anderson with Marshall, Texas. Christina?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. And Doug, that was a excellent presentation, because just going through it and thinking of all your wonderful tips helped me to just relive the experience that all of us have gone through. But I want to say to those who may have not applied yet, which I know what this is about this morning, that these call-ins are so important. Those tips are just very, very, very important, because we've walked in your shoes. So do I just advance it, Sarah? first thing I want to say, I guess one of the most important things to underscore is how helpful the National Civic League is. What a remarkable experience the All-America City Award is. I think anyone who has experienced it, I think one of the first moments when you walk into the plenary session on Friday, everybody just looks at each other and says to themselves, I have never experienced something so positive. It really is one of those unifying experience, one of the most unifying experiences, not only for your community, but to be there with other communities throughout the United States. So I just wanted to do a big shout out. That's our team of 2015 from Marshall, Texas. I just want to go straight into the story of Marshall. We had been at All-America City way back in 1976, and actually a gentleman, a mentor here, said to me he wanted us to try again to be an All-America City. So ours was a 2-year process. In 2014, we were a finalist. You see there on the left. We were a finalist in 2014, but did not quite make it. As Doug was saying, sometimes you have to go back for the second year. But our second year, we went back. It's different teams, some of the same members. That's one of the tips, that it's probably, if you do try twice, it's good to have some of the same members, but also new members, because of course you're addressing a whole new group of stories. But those are our 2014 and 2015 Marshall, Texas teams. And these photos, as you'll see, I'll say a little bit more about it. We decided our focus would be about We Are One, Marshall, Texas. And again, I think Doug touched upon this, but I still can't capture in words the feeling of being there with your team and being called that you've won, because all of you have worked so hard to a common goal. And there you'll see that's me with the blonde hair, shaking hands with Jean Birmingham, who was her husband was the first African-American mayor in Marshall, Texas, and she was the first African-American city commissioner, and she was just, I think, the rock star. I think people who might have found Sarah will remember, people would just come up to Jean to get her autograph, because she's just a jewel. And every team, I guess I'll say that every team has one or two jewels that are just, you'll know from your own community. You know those people who are just that make things happen. We were very blessed and fortunate to have that year that one of our young team members, Tavon Green, was selected as one of the Youth of the Year award, along with Luigi Manzo from Salinas, California. But that's the other thing. I may be reiterating something that Doug already said, but the camaraderie between the teams is as important as the camaraderie in your own community, because it just becomes one big happy family. And it is an unusual situation, because you truly, truly are rooting for your fellow teams, and we all want to win. But there's something about All-America City that makes you just want to support and just, it's all about America. That's what it's about. Next. My helpful tip is lead with your youth. That is, they will be your shining stars, and I can just tell you every face on that screen right now, some of them were from our a cappella choir from Wiley College, and so they were already knew about performing, but others from the Boys and Girls Club weren't so much used to performing in front of people, but boy, did they bloom during the whole experience. And just seeing their faces right now make me get a lump in my throat, because they were just, all of them performed so well. But I think that's one thing that you should remember. I will tell you, from 2014, we took a lot of college students, but we did not take younger students, and I think that is it's a key. You know, it's more a logistical thing the first year, but that's one of the things that I learned. You know, it has to adapt to the story that you're telling about your community, but bring your younger children if you can. And the next slide is, as you know, on the application, or as you will see on the application, there is statistics about your community that you'll have to provide. And at the time of 2015, with our last application, Marshall, Texas is a small city, 24,501. When I first encountered the All-America City Awards, people assumed even in my own community, assumed that you would be competing against cities your own size. And that, of course, as you probably have found out, is not true. It's you're competing against cities of all sizes. You can be competing against Los Angeles, California, or San Antonio. I think Las Vegas was one year that was 2016. That's not the point. It's all about telling your story and how your city is civically engaged. Our population background is we're very diverse, wonderfully diverse. 41.6% African American, 40.9 Caucasian, and 16.4 Hispanic, Latino, and others. And our median income is $30,000. So it's a lower moderate income community. And there's our courthouse there. As I said, we chose to say we are one Marshall, Texas, because the theme that we were underscoring that year was how do we help vulnerable boys and young men. And that's something that I do very proud of our community, that's very supportive of our youth and supportive of and very embracing of the diversity in our community. But a tip I will tell you is it really is the whole application process will help you to look at your community and kind of get to the heart of what is your community all about. And I moved to our community. My husband is a native, but I moved from Los Angeles to this little town back in the 90s and have been very civically engaged. And I knew a lot about the heartbeat of our community, but that knowing what that heartbeat is, the next step is effectively and imaginatively conveying what that is. And of course, always keep in mind what the underscored theme is that NCL is so helpful. And Sarah, you will not find anyone more helpful in your journey on the path of All-America City Award. Like I said, we are one Marshall, Texas. We had an anthem, a rallying cry. We chose to make all our T-shirts with that logo. That's just a choice, as Doug was saying. There's no hard and fast rules for any of this. It's just what you choose for your community. And of course, that came out of the application process. And one of the lines in our anthem is, though we are diverse, we all sing the same verse. And we chose coming into walking into the room, we had our anthem that we sang about Marshall, Texas. But again, there are so many different kinds of entrances that people have coming in for their presentation in Denver. Part of your community story, that's again, it's all about your community. Our community happens to be, for a small town of 24,000, we're very fortunate to have 4 institutes of higher learning. So, of course, we drew from those students in those colleges, like I said, the a cappella choir of Wiley College, and from each of the colleges you see there. But we feel that was a unique aspect of our small community because education, as it is in many, many communities, of course, education is kind of the thing that we underscore. That's one of the most important things that we know, not only in our elementary and high schools in our community, but also that we have these wonderful colleges and universities in our town. So we chose to make that a part of our community story. And like I said, in 2015, the theme was supporting vulnerable boys and young men. And so we have a lot of people, I'm sure, in their communities have wonderful boys and girls clubs. We have one that just, the coach of our, the director of our Boys and Girls Club is just very dynamic and was a part of our team and brought many of the students from the Boys and Girls Club. They have something like a 99% graduation rate. I think they've had only 2 students over 11 years who haven't graduated. And Tavon Green, our Youth of the Year, was part of the Boys and Girls Club. So, again, you'll hear this over and over, and it is so true. You need to have outcomes, as you'll see on that card right there where James Zell is holding a card about the Boys and Girls Club. We have our the outcomes, the measurable outcomes, but also it's those powerful stories, such as Tavon Green, the Youth of the Award winner, many of the years of his life he was homeless and had to face the challenges of being homeless with his family, with his mom. And so he told that story, and it's probably one of the most powerful parts of our presentation besides it's just being a remarkable young man. Next slide. Another thing that we underscored in our community of Marshall, Texas, it's on the eastern side of Texas, northeast part of Texas near Louisiana, and we have an incredible African-American history, incredible history, but our African-American history is particularly strong because James Farmer, for example, was born in Marshall, Texas. We've had many, many civil rights leaders. Lady Bird Johnson is from our area, and Bill Moyers. But you will know probably through a film called The Great Debaters. Wiley College has been a leader in the civil rights efforts with Melvin Tolson and others. And this we've made a part of our story, the community project in which our community came together to create a brochure and then a trail that people can drive around in our community called the Blue Art History Trail, named after one of our wonderful educators in our community. But you see the photo cards there on the screen that tell some of that story about the Blue Art History Trail. But I will say something that is very important as you go about the planning of your presentation. As you know, photo cards, as you'll see in many of the presentations, photo cards are very important because you're telling your story through music and words. You can't use video or things like that. And so photo cards that are held by some of your members at opportune times or at the appropriate times during your presentation can be very helpful because the images help to tell the story, of course. And, of course, we're birthplace of Boogie Woogie, Marshall, Texas, so we're very proud of that. That's something that we included as well. Very counterintuitively, Marshall, Texas is also one of the vegan capitals, I guess. You know, we're known for our vegan and plant-based diet here because we had a mayor who started an initiative called Get Healthy Marshall several years ago, and we have a health fest that brings plant-based people to our community, and we're always so proud. We have about 5 or 6 vegan restaurants downtown, but they're restaurants with others, so you can be sitting next to someone eating barbecue and then, of course, someone eating vegan diet in Marshall, Texas. But we had made that a part of our 2014 story because the theme that year was about healthy communities. But we incorporated in this the next year as well because the youth aspect, we so much was focused on youth and keeping their diets in our schools healthy, and so that was helpful in our presentation in our 2015 win for the All-America City Award. And as Doug had referenced before, once you win, it's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing to leverage the brand of All-America City, which we have done very successfully. We have banners around our courthouse square, as you see right there during our Wonderland of Light presentation. Here are 2 of our boys and girls, Michaela and James Zell, who were 2 of our team members. But one of the things that the Boys and Girls Club does is they literally have a business model that helps students make T-shirts so that they can pay for their scholarships. And so they made our All-America City shirts. And we were in parade, as I'm sure your communities will do. We continue to just leverage that brand as much as we can because it is so helpful with regard to economic growth, with regard to attracting businesses. And so on the right-hand side, you see us in what we call our Fire Ant Festival October Parade downtown. The next slide. I'll just go through quickly some other helpful tips because just like Doug had some tips about take advantage of NCL's offer to connect with a mentor, enroll in a wide cross-section of your community, be sure you can get your city commission and your city staff involved with local media. All of those people played a huge role in our award. Know that one of the hardest parts of the process is getting your presentation down to 10 minutes. You will all find that because there's so much to tell and so many wonderful people in your community. So that's one of the hardest. I can just guarantee it's one of the hardest parts to make it down to 10 minutes. Leave plenty of time for your team to rehearse in your community and when you get there. And once again, I'll echo what Doug said about getting extra rehearsal space. and also plan for potential flight issues. The first year I should say, I didn't plan well enough so that all of our team could be there for the plenary session. And I think that year also, or maybe the year, Doug, that we were there in the 2016, there were some issues where planes, they're sometimes planes are not on time, and so plan ahead for that. Let's see. Coordinate with your team so that your members are able to watch your fellow finalist teams. That is so key because it's not just supporting the other teams, it's learning from the other teams, and it's just the most important part of the experience because I know you want to make your presentation the best, and we were Texas, so we presented on Sunday, so we were watching we could have been using our time for rehearsing those 2 days, but we didn't. We went to see the other communities. We rehearsed and saw the other communities, and that's so important. And again, I'll just underscore how important it is to fully immerse yourself in the process because there is nothing like All-America City Award. It is just one of the most positive experiences you'll ever have in your life and your community. Next slide. Also, just recently, we won in 2015, but it's an ongoing brand about your All-America City. And recently, just a couple of weeks ago, the National Association for Railroad Passengers sent 2 of their interns all around the United States, and they stopped in Marshall, Texas, because we're working on getting a connection between Fort Worth and Atlanta through Marshall or Amtrak, and they stopped by. And so, of course, we used our brand right there at the depot to show them as they stepped off the train that Marshall, Texas is an All-America City. And the next slide shows, yes, and we had a pet rally for rail, and of course, as you'll see on the programs, we proudly put our All-America City logo, and as you see those banners on our lampposts all throughout our city. That happened to be August 21st, which was the solar eclipse. So there's a picture of the young people there with the president of National Association of Railroad Passengers looking at the eclipse. And if you want to see anything more about that, you can go to the summerbyrail.com. But I just wanted to say thank you, Sarah, for inviting Marshall, Texas to be a part of today's webinar. And again, I have my email address at the head. Please call or email me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help or answer any questions at the end of this webinar. So thank you again on behalf of Marshall, Texas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christina. We really appreciated all of your tips and learning more about Marshall and your journey through the All-America City Award. I do have to say I highly suggest watching their presentation, but be warned, their very catchy song will get stuck in your head. But it was a great presentation, and I definitely encourage everyone to watch all of the previous presentations that we have on the website, and that's part of the resources that's on our website and in the 2018 application. One other thing I want to underscore that Christina said before we pass it to our last presenter, Nate, is that it is very important in the presentation and in the application itself to lead with your people. Outcomes and measurable impacts are very important, but we also want to hear the qualitative impacts of your programs, and it is much more powerful and much more descriptive of what your projects are actually doing when you hear from a participant or a recipient of your programs and projects, rather than an executive director or even a mayor or council member. It is just very clear when the voice is coming from someone who has benefited from an initiative that gives a much fuller details on what that project is really doing for your community. So keep that in mind. Lots of applications have quotes from participants and recipients of the project, so that's definitely a main tip that I personally give to people. So with that, I want to move to our last presenter, Nate, from Brown Deer, Wisconsin.
All right. Good morning, everybody. And last but not least, I appreciate you all sticking with the call here. And I must say that Doug and Christine have summed up a lot of the key points of the All-American City application process and presentation, and I'll try to piggyback on that but not repeat it too much, and give you a little bit of flavor of Brown Deer and how we were successful as a first-time applicant in 2016. So we're a small, diverse suburban community, one of the most diverse suburban communities in the state of Wisconsin, if not the most. Our demographics actually look very similar to Marshall, Texas. And I will tell you, as Christine mentioned, one of the things that you get from the All-American City program is you learn so much from other communities. And just now, I know way more about Marshall, Texas than I ever did before. And that's something that I think resonates long after you leave the All-American City program. Is you take away a lot of new ideas and you meet a lot of great people. The networking is fantastic. And so just very simply, where we're located, Brown Deer is just on the north side of Milwaukee in Wisconsin along Lake Michigan. We occupy an interesting geographical position in that we border the city, but we also border some very, very affluent, if not the most affluent communities in the state. So we're this blue-collar community kind of tucked in between the city and a lot of wealth. And so as I indicated, we're a first-time applicant in 2016, and we were lucky enough to be an award winner. And the impetus for our application actually came from one of our trustees who travels around the country a lot for work, and as he was traveling, noticed some towns, I think in Michigan and then also in Iowa, where they had these signs that said, All-America City winner or All-America City finalist. And he came back from one of his trips and asked our staff here at the village, what is this All-America City program? Why are we not an All-America City? We have a lot of great stories to tell, and let's see if we can apply for this. So this happened only a couple of months before the deadline for the 2016 application. So we had to hustle a little bit, and when your elected officials, who are the ones kind of behind your city salary, if you will, are telling you, hey, get on this, you tend to follow up with them and say, well, let's take a peek and see what we can do. And so we quickly found out that the application was due in February. And so I think unlike Doug's situation, Christine's situation, we didn't have a local chamber of commerce or some other outside organization, an economic development organization, to be our champion. And so we worked with our municipal organization, within our municipal organization and our school district, to be the main leaders on this application. And to Doug's point, I think that he made earlier, is that you should prepare for the whole program. You should go into your application expecting to be successful and expecting to be a finalist, because if you're not prepared to do that, you're kind of missing most of I think the benefit from the All-America City program, and suddenly you're stopped short. You're a finalist, but you have failed to assume the fundraising that you would need and the time and effort and energy that you would need as a finalist to see through to hopefully be a winner. And so we applied. We decided in December, maybe early January, to apply. We met the deadline. We were one of the folks that did not necessarily heed the advice that Sarah has relayed and our other two presenters have relayed about applying a day early. We pushed it right up. I think we got our application in at 11:59 on the day that it was due. But we did follow the advice of Doug in having one point person really serve as the main writer and the main voice, but getting a lot of other eyes onto the document so that it was proofread, it was consistent in its message and flow. And I think that's very important, that you have one central person do that, but a lot of eyes looking at it. And if you can, get it in early, but get it in. I encourage you to apply. It's well worth it. Like I said, we got it in just under the wire. So there definitely is pressure that comes with this being accepted as a finalist. And so we were not prepared necessarily for that, kind of coming to the game late, not really knowing about what All-America City is or entails. And I think you're already, all of you that are on the call today are already ahead of the game in that respect, in that you're hearing that there is this second step. And so we didn't even know what the presentations were like. And to Sarah's point about looking at the presentations online, I think that's also great advice, because once we saw that, we got a little nervous as well, truthfully. We thought the presentation would be your typical PowerPoint and slideshow and us talking very formally about our 3 projects that we had in 2016. And so, Sarah, you can go to the next slide. We'll touch on that a little bit. But, the big thing that we felt in even when we applied, and then considering that we needed to then make this pitch out in Denver, was these are the reasons. And it really became evident for us once we were out in Denver is that you learn so much about your community. You learn from the youth to the seniors, what's impacting them, what they enjoy about your community, and you learn about various cultures, and you learn from other cities as well. When we were there in 2016, we were a little nervous because we're a community of 12,000 people, and suddenly there next to us at the plenary session was about 150 people from Las Vegas, and we thought, oh my gosh, they're going to have, they're going to bring out Siegfried and Roy, and there's going to be, there's going to be circus performers and all sorts of stuff, and they're neon lights in their presentation, and they're going to wow us and wow the judges and overwhelm little old brown deer. And we thought we had nothing in common with them as well. And what we came to find out is that even though they're much bigger, we shared a lot of the same challenges and issues that they do, maybe different in scale, but we were able to connect, and that's a picture you see there of our group with some of the Las Vegas folks. I will say that they did have these really cool shirts that illuminated with the Welcome to Las Vegas logo. We couldn't afford that. That's a little bit of the Las Vegas pizzazz and spectacle, but they were great. That's an example, I think, of just the connections that you make, and you don't think that your city has anything in common with these other places, but you really do. And so as we started applying, we started learning about all the great things that our community was doing and the people that were involved. And you then get the great stuff afterwards, and I'll touch on that kind of like Doug and Christine did. So next slide, Sarah. The outline for the 2016 application really was about how your community is improving the lives of the youth and the youth of Brown Deer. And so the 3 projects that we worked on that highlighted this were, as you can see here, we're improving access to the Milwaukee River, a great environmental asset here in Brown Deer that we had no public access to, and we added a riverside park there, a boat launch, a new bus route that crossed our city or crossed our village and stopped adjacent to that new park, added sidewalks and multimodal connections to that green space. We also highlighted a school district campus plan that involved a $22 million referendum in the middle of the recession in 2011, which was successful. It was the first school referendum to pass in southeastern Wisconsin in about 3 years at that time and be successful. And a lot of that had to do to the heavy lifting of people in the community and the youth that really explained and went out and spoke to the need of not just adding new classrooms, but really creating this campus that the whole community could benefit from, and looking at general health and wellness and the public's health and wellness by creating new trails, outdoor classrooms, field house space for the community, workout facilities for the community. And so that dovetailed into another project that the school district worked on that year, which was our Brown Deer Way character education program. Around the same time that the referendum was ongoing, our school district came to find out from the State Department of Education that there was an unusually high number of suspensions for students of color, and our school district is now majority minority, one of the first suburban school districts to have that distinction, and it was something that our school district really wanted to tackle, and so they came to learn of this program to advance character education and develop a moral code, which has resulted in a lot of positive progress in terms of reduced discipline referrals, particularly for students of color, increased graduation rates, to the point that we're now graduating 100% just in this past year out of our high school. So a phenomenal turnaround led by this initiative on character education. And so those three projects were presented, and I think really were very good for our community to learn about. And so we were luckily able to be successful, and much like Christine and Doug, we leveraged the heck out of the award once we won. I don't have all the pictures to show you what we all did, but the 4th of July parade, that was our theme, all America City. We created little stickers to put on all of our municipal vehicles, and window stickers that our businesses could put up in their storefronts. We had reusable shopping bags, which we actually had All America City on one side, and then for the sponsors that helped us fundraise and pay to get out there, we put their logos on the back. We put up gateway and entry signs throughout Brown Deer touting our win. Our economic development material that we would send out to prospective retailers and businesses all included the logo. We were able to put out a bunch of PR blasts and get local TV and print recognition for the award, which was phenomenal because a lot of times they tend to only look at the negative news stories. If it bleeds, it leads, right? So to get out a positive story about our community was fantastic, and it served us well and continues to serve us well in making people recognize our community, as well as attracting businesses as well, and other individuals to even just want to come and recreate and maybe purchase a home in Brown Deer. So lastly, a couple of tips for you all, and I think what I'll focus on is the fundraising and the prep work side of things. And the first point I want to make about fundraising is you're going to need to do it. Don't be shy about asking anyone and everyone to help you out, because you're going to have a short window, and you may not know how many people you can bring, you want to bring, and so look to fundraise just as much as possible. We were coming at it from our village side of things and the school district side of things, and obviously our budget is limited. It depends, I'm guessing, I don't know who's all on the phone, but I'm guessing if you work in a municipality, you have various constraints on how and when you can budget for things, and we had no money in the budget for this. So this was a very shoestring effort where we had to go outside of our village hall and outside of our school district to find money. And we were lucky enough to have some very generous corporations here, as well as citizens and foundations that helped see us through the fundraising process, and were able to also push other businesses or other organizations that they knew to help make it happen. And one of the things that we did was really sold these organizations on the positive nature of this award and this recognition and what it could do for them. We really wanted to not just say, hey, give us money, but we went to them with a specific idea in mind for how we can relate this back to helping them sell their brand or helping them promote afterwards. Hey, we're going to put your logo on a T-shirt. Hey, we're going to put your logo on these reusable bags if we get it. We have a big water meter company in town that produces probably the water meters that are in the buildings that you sit in currently, and our big message to that corporation to look to sponsor us on this trip was, we'll tout Badger meter and fresh water all the way through the whole application process. And so a lot of communities, when they come to the awards in Denver, you'll have this opportunity to interact and have a booth, if you will, and display your products. And different communities brought different things. There was a place from North Carolina, I think, that brought soda. Las Vegas had some flashy pins that they were handing out. We were handing out water with Badger Meter's logo on it at the event. So bottled water, we call ourselves the freshwater capital of the world. We were handing that out, and so Badger Meter loved that. They loved the branding. They actually took some of those bottles of water and have been, we ordered a ton of them, and they've been passing them out for all sorts of things just to get their name out. So on the fundraising side, don't be shy and think of ways to help sell it to businesses that may see some kind of marketing benefit out of it. There's no shame in that, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And then on let's assume all of you guys have a great written application and you're all selected to be finalists. If you are selected to be a finalist, as Doug mentioned, do your prep work, rehearse again. As Christine mentioned, try to figure out how to tighten it down to 10 minutes. That's going to be tricky because you have such great projects, and I'm sure, and a lot of things to talk about. That's going to be a key. But also think of trying to be unique in your presentation. Look at what some of the other communities did and rely on energetic folks. Make sure that you have people that are comfortable in presenting and have the ability to speak very well to all of the projects that you have in your application and have good public speaking ability. And then again, think outside the box. I think we're successful in that our presentation, we adopted a format where we created a short story, a mini play, if you will, to tell the tale of our three projects. And so we avoided the PowerPoint-esque presentation and the very formulaic kind of project 1, now on to project 2. We made it a little bit more engaging and a little bit more entertaining in that respect. Our group was small. We only had 14 people as part of our team, but it's not about size. Like I said, Las Vegas had 150 people, it seemed like. Maybe it wasn't that, maybe it was only 75, but it seemed like they had a ton, and San Antonio was there and they had a ton of folks. It's not about your size of your community, it's not about the size of your group at the final presentation. It's about content, and I think the thing that we had going for us was creativity. And so be creative and be prepared to think about that in the 2 months that you have, 2.5 months that you have between your approval or acceptance as a finalist and the presentation. So with that, my contact information was at the start. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to relay further thoughts outside of this webinar as needed. So that's all I have.
Great. Thank you so much, Nate. Really appreciate you sharing, and I love that we had these 3 presentations that really show different places where communities are coming from when it comes to the All-America City Award. You all on the call obviously are already thinking about it, so you are ahead of the game, but I'm glad that we had Nate on to show even if you come in a little bit later, maybe in January of the year you're applying, you can definitely still be successful. And just to reiterate, there is no advantage to small or large communities or small or large delegations when it comes to the presentation. Really is about substance and content. And you will see from the previous presentations and some other videos we have online, as Nate said, it's not about PowerPoint. It's really about creativity and coming together as a community to show your story on a national stage. I also really appreciate the 3 presenters for showing that there can be different leads on your application, so keep that in mind. Whether it's a school district, a chamber, or the local government, all of them are important, and all different institutions can be leads on the application. I do want to apologize for running over time, so we don't have time for questions right now, but I will be sending out the PowerPoint and the recording, so you will have Doug, Christina, and Nate's information. They also all mentioned about having a mentor, and feel free to email me if that's something you're interested in, and I can definitely get you all set up with a mentor community. You'll also see in the follow-up email that I send out the sign up for our October webinar, which we're really excited about. We're going to have a WK Kellogg Foundation consultant talking to us about their racial healing and equity program. So please sign up to join us for that as well. And my contact information will be in the follow-up email, and I am always here to answer any questions that you didn't get to ask on the webinar today by phone or email. So thank you again, Doug, Christina, and Nate, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Enjoyed it. Thanks.